have the self-awareness to understand what you are and what you are not. It took me a few years because I was so, headstrong. I was like, I can just be anything. And it's like, you can do okay. You can be anything and be okay. If you're competent, you can mold, but you can't be the best, right? Like the guy who wins the Olympic marathon, he was built to run and to win the Olympic marathon. The guy who builds the Facebook, that guy's built to build Facebook.
Welcome to the Nickolas Natali Show. Today we have a truly inspiring guest, Eddie Roche, who's journeyed from a high school dropout to a multifaceted entrepreneur. Eddie's life has been a roller coaster of extreme highs and lows, from chasing a soccer dream in Europe, overcoming a series of failed businesses, to creating successful ventures against all odds. Riddle of the week: what did the duck say when it bought chapstick? Stay tuned to the end of the episode to find out. And buckle up, because we're about to dive deep into Eddie's story. Let's jump in. Today we have Eddie. Eddie, welcome.
Thank you, Nick. Thanks for coming in. Happy to be here.
Thanks for having me. We're at the Dominate Studio.
I am having you technically. Yeah, this is great. Thanks for offering for me to share the story and, give us a platform. It's great.
I'm excited. Here's where I want to start. I'm going to start early life.
Okay.
And I'd love to work our way to Dominate, because I think it's, it's just like a beautiful cherry on top.
Yeah.
But let's start 15 years old. You're dropping out of school.
Yes.
What's the motivation and how did your parents feel about it?
So I was a soccer player, and I was a very, very dedicated soccer player, and I wanted to go pro. I was obsessed with sport. I was a very passionate kid, and my passion took me to sport. So I wanted to drop out and play soccer. So I had an opportunity to go and play in Costa Rica with
That's wild.
third division team. Yeah. Third division team called Grecia. And they were in San Jose, the capital of Costa Rica.
Yeah.
And I had a connection because I was training with, at the time, the guy who was the ex-US men's national team coach. He knew the head coach of this team, but I got an opportunity to go down there. So I went down there. I lived in Costa Rica for basically 6 months.
Played soccer.
Yeah. And my
yourself?
parents were happy to see me pursue my dream. And I lived with the coach, actually. I lived with the coach of the team. It was an incredible experience. And that was the impetus for me leaving high school. And I never went back.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's wild. Did you pick up Spanish while you were over there?
Yeah, totally. I learned high school in middle school, high school, a little bit of Spanish, but when you fully immerse yourself in a culture like that, you learn more in a month. Yeah. 1 month is more valuable than 3 years,
my
4 years of school.
Duolingo. Yeah, my daily Duolingo's not cutting it.
I picked it up, mate. I was pretty good. I'm not as strong as I used to be, because after you live there for that amount of time, you start thinking in Spanish. So instead of like thinking in English and translating, I actually got to a point where I was thinking in Spanish.
Yeah.
I missed that. It was fun.
Yeah.
It was felt pretty cool for a sec to be like bilingual, but it's like anything. If you don't do it regularly, you lose it.
Yeah.
So I haven't flexed that muscle in a while.
Twofold question. You wrote that it was a failure. Like you failed at this effort to get picked up in football, but it seems like there were so many good things about it. And then you also went to Europe for some time too to get picked up as a contract.
Yeah. So dude, I was basically like any kid who wants to play soccer professionally, you're looking at the big leagues in Europe. And those are sort of like, that's the big leagues. That's the majors, right? Like the
MLS,
Bundesliga in Germany, the Premier League in England, La Liga in Spain, the Italian league. I mean, all the major leagues are in Europe. So I was like vying for a spot like on the bench at like a third division Costa Rican team. It wasn't very glamorous, right? It was like, mate, some of these teams, right? It's professional technically, like the people are being paid, but you get better facilities at a D1 college in America, right? Like it's not a glamorous lifestyle. So professional sports, there's many, many levels of that. And for me, like bouncing around in some obscure league in Greece or there's so many different levels. And if it wasn't going to be the top level, it wasn't really what I had envisioned for myself. By the time, mate, I was 18 years old and I still hadn't, gotten any offers from any major clubs. Like I probably could have stayed with it and been a journeyman and like bounced around from, team to team, in these, and some people do that and that's gratifying for them and that's great. They're doing what they love. But for me, that wasn't ever like that interesting. So it was a failure in the sense that I never got to the level I wanted to. You're 18 years old. Like there's guys playing for Manchester United at 15, 16. Like,
oh my gosh.
Literally, like that's the pinnacle of the sport. So I wasn't even close. Like it was just a reality check. Like, dude, you're 18. Like if it was going to happen, it would have happened 6 years ago.
Yeah.
So,
which is wild. That's so young.
Yeah. And you sort of are delusional as a kid. You're like, oh no, like, my big break is just around the corner.
Yeah.
But it's like, dude, I was 18 years old and it's like, okay, mate, it's over. Like go home and do something else. So I went back home to my parents' place in LA and I started thinking like, do I go back to college or what should I do? And I started doing triathlon really seriously.
Yeah.
And that's when I started racing triathlon. I got really serious and I won this big race in Northern California. And I got the first time in my life, company approached me and said like, hey, we want to sponsor to you? Like, do you want to do this professionally?
Yeah.
And I didn't even know that was a thing. I was like, it's professional, like triathlon?
Yeah.
So I started reading on this like culture, had this rich history of Australians who were excelling in triathlon. And like,
It's in
I
your
was
blood,
like, this
baby.
is perfect. It's in my blood. I'm a good swimmer, like grew up swimming. So I got my second lease on life at my athletic dream.
Yeah.
But
Early on.
But it was a failure in itself because the same thing happened again. Like I did that for like 4 years and I was good, man. I was really good. And I could have been pro. I could have been pro for 10 years and been a journeyman. And a lot of guys do that. And I don't mean to disparage that. That's beautiful. If you get a lot of joy from that lifestyle and you don't need to make money, that's great. But it was very clear to me at age 21, it's like, dude, the best you're ever going to be is middle of the pack. And it's a hard life and there's not a lot of money and it's hard. So long story short was I just said, okay, man, it's over. It's been a wild ride. It's been fun. I traveled all over the world, met some amazing people, explored the full depths of my soul as an athlete. Like, it's a hard way to spend your day training 6 hours, 7 hours a day, honestly, which is what I was doing for many years. So it was a great experience. But yeah, when I was 22, it was time for me to start my real career. So I started, working in tech and started building companies.
This is what I picked up from what you just said. You got to be insanely competitive too. But also the self-awareness, like the reason I say insanely competitive is to have the self-awareness to say, I know I'm going to be middle of the pack of this, but I want to be the best at anything I do. Yeah. So I'm going to choose the route where I can be the absolute best. I think that's a really self-aware decision to be able to make, and it doesn't seem like it'd be an easy one.
I don't know how commendable it is, but it's definitely a trait that I had from from a very young age. It was like, if you're not the best, what's the point? Like if you're not winning, what's the point? Like, I don't know where that came from. But yeah, I've got this bit that I like to say, and it's like, it's really true when I look back and I analyze my upbringing, my life. It took me like 18 years to figure out that I'm not David Beckham. And then it took me like another 5 years to figure out I'm not Lance Armstrong. And it took me like another 6 years-ish to figure out I'm not Mark Zuckerberg. And then finally I keep going and I keep trying all these things and I keep trying to be the best in all these different fields. And I keep realizing that that's not you. That's not you. That's not you.
Yeah.
Because I came up against the best guys and I saw what that was like. And I was like, that's not me. But I finally gotten to a place, Nick, where I'm doing exactly what I'm built to do. And I really believe I can be the best at like what I'm doing.
Heck yeah.
So it's like, who's going to build the next Equinox? Like, I don't think there's a man or woman alive today who's better suited than me, given where this industry is going. So it's taken many, many failures and refining over and over and over. Who am I? What am I actually good at? What are my gifts? Like, where is my passion lie? What's my value, my maximum contribution? And like, where, how can I then apply that? What's an area where I can like differentiate or be authentically myself and be the best at it. There's a great quote by Naval. You know Naval? Naval Ravikant is like a modern day philosopher. Anyway, he likes to say the best way to escape competition is through authenticity. So you should, instead of going and trying to fit the mold of any given, you should build businesses around you. What's unique about you? Yeah. And actually, you're a podcaster, so I'll pick like Joe Rogan, for example. Yeah. Right. Like there was you can't. It's like no one can be Joe better than Joe. He's just sitting there talking about things he's interested in. Yeah. Right. And he builds this massive multi-$100 million empire. And so we're seeing a lot of people doing this now using the internet. Like you can carve out a niche and you can like build a content business or. For me, I just so happen to be really passionate about something which is a mass market product, which is fitness and wellness and community building. And like, these are things which are incredibly, like there's a massive market there, right? So it's not like I'm inventing a market. The market already existed. I just happen to be the suitable entrepreneur who can come in and do something really interesting in that space.
Hey, what's going on? It's Nick. Many people ask me this question: how can I best support the podcast? And I really appreciate that sentiment. You can do so by leaving a 5-star review on the platform you're listening on. It goes a long way and it's free. It takes like 20 seconds. Or you can subscribe to our Patreon to have access to early release episodes at patreon.com/Nickolas Natali. Just wanted to answer that quick little question for you. All right, back to the episode. You mentioned something else that's really great early on in that too, is refining that those characteristics that can make you this person that's perfect for what you're doing now. Right. Let's talk about one of those experiences. Yeah. I got Timebomb / Timogram. Yes. Which you're taking on some debt.
Did you? This is great. You've done your research.
This is around the same time your parents lost their home, their home to foreclosure.
That wasn't funny at all. That was the same time when I said I was racing triathlon. I was traveling all over the world. Mom and dad started going through a really hard financial moment. It developed over many years, but when I was like 21 or 22, they got evicted from their home and they lost everything. And when I say everything, I mean like everything. Like there was nothing left. And so that was really hard to watch them go through that, because that was obviously the people you love most, and you're watching them go through this traumatic experience that changed them and changed my family forever. It led to my decision to quit sport because I was like, what am I doing? Like, dude, how do you get up in the morning? I was waking up at 4 a.m., like eating all this expensive food, going and swimming for 2.5 hours, like 6 kilometers minimum. Then you go home, you eat again, massive meal, really expensive. Then you get on the bike, you be on the bike for 4 or 5 hours. And it's like, you're out there on hour 3 and you're like, what am I doing? Like, dude, I came home last night. My mom was in tears. You know, she's got nothing. She's lost everything. Like my dad's in a really bad way. Like, what am I doing? Like, I'm not helping. Yeah. So I was just like, I lost motivation to train and I lost motivation to race. And I just became hell bent on making money because I was like, dude, I've got a brain. Like, I know I can do something. Like, it's just, I'm choosing to do this because I love it. And it feels very selfish. Yeah. Seeing the family go through that, and I had sisters at the time and it was hard for them. So it was hard to go through that. Ultimately, it was a gift for me because it led to a number of things, which, you know, made me a better person, you know, in so many ways, but it was a tough time. And so, yeah, I decided to stop training, stop racing. And I was no good anyway. So it was like, dude, this is like probably for the best. I started thinking like, how am I going to make money? Like, what am I going to do? Right. And so one of my best friends he and I had always been bouncing ideas off of each other for many years. Like, we're going to start a startup, like all these kids in Silicon Valley are making all this money. Like, we're missing out. Like, let's go do this. So we put our heads together and we built Timebomb, which is my first foray into tech. And we had
a great idea for the time. Like,
dude,
during that time.
It's so funny because this is another thing I've learned. Like, it was right there. Like, oh man, we still will talk on the phone for hours. And we'll be like, if we just had a little bit, you know, the context or the wisdom or the foresight, like the knowledge we have now, we were so clueless. We were just a couple of kids from Australia. Like, let's go over there and build this thing. The idea was incredible, mate. We launched this thing on Product Hunt and we had 10,000 people waiting to use it. I had calls from some of the biggest venture capitalists in West LA. Like, I was going and meeting these guys. I was meeting bankers. I was meeting multi-billionaires. And I was like a kid. I was 22. I didn't have a clue what I was doing. And it's so funny because one defining characteristic of me is I'm very confident. I've always been very confident, almost to a point where it's like delusional. Yeah. And I would go in and we'd go into these pitches. My mate, he's like, you know, 8 years my senior. And then we had one of the top software developers in Australia. Yeah. He came in as an equitable partner. Him and his firm built the technology. And so the three of us would go into these meetings and I'm this like 22-year-old kid and I'm walk right in.
Telling us what?
And they're shaking. They're like, they're like fumbling over their words. And they're like, you know, and I'm looking at them, I'm going, boys. And like, I would take the lead and I'd just be like, mate, here's the deal. We want $1 million for this. And I didn't have a fucking clue what I was doing. Yeah. But I was so gun-ho. It's funny looking back because I was clueless, but it was, you know, it's good. Like, I was willing to try. You know, it's always been something I've been willing to do is I've been willing to grab the reins and give it a shot. Yeah. We didn't raise enough. We should have raised more money. We had flaws in our technology. We didn't have a clue about the marketing. We could have been monetizing way quicker. Like, there's so many mistakes we made. And looking back, it was a huge missed opportunity. We could have made seriously tens of millions of dollars, and lots of other people went on to build the exact product that we had already.
Hugh Stevens, Schedugram.
You've done your homework. Yeah. And we were in contact with a lot of these guys. Yeah. You know, we even gave them tips on helping them develop their tech because, you know, anyway, so looking back, it's like one of those things, woulda, coulda, shoulda. Like, it didn't work out. We didn't know what we were doing. And it was a lesson learned and a missed opportunity and a failure. And it was a stepping stone. And
amazing,
you just accumulate these stepping stones and you keep moving forward. Ultimately, I'm very grateful because I'm very happy with the life I live now. It didn't work out, but it led me down a path that made me a lot stronger and wiser, and it forces you to learn and adapt and become more self-aware. Yeah. You know, like, I really had the arrogance to think I was like able to take on the whole tech industry and like be, you know, Mark Zuckerberg. It's like, mate, that's not me. You know, like, you're a software developer. Like, when I was growing up, I was extremely passionate about fitness. Like, I'm the most passionate person in the world about fitness. I'm serious. Most people would consider it a mental illness, right? Yeah. And like, when you get in the room with guys who it's like, dude, all those times when you were watching sport or whether it was socializing with people, I love people as well. I'm a people person, right? Yeah. These guys were hacking together products, you know, and it's like, dude, that's not you. Like, be real with yourself. You got to have self-awareness. If you want to build something and you want to be competitive, have the self-awareness to understand what you are and what you are not. It took me a few years because I was so, you know, headstrong. I was like, I can just be anything. And it's like, you can do okay. You can be anything and be okay if you're competent. You can mold, drive, but you can't be the best, right? Like, the guy who wins the Olympic marathon, he was built to run and to win the Olympic marathon. Yeah. The guy who builds the Facebook, that guy's built to build Facebook. Like, it's in his DNA. It's who he is. I kept again and again and again, did all these different things. I know we're jumping around a lot, but that was the ultimate learning lesson of my first 10 years of my journey as an entrepreneur was like, who are you and what are you actually here to build? And it's like, go build that and I'm building it. But it took me a long time to develop that self-awareness, and it was very humbling to get my ass kicked in so many different endeavors, whether it was soccer, got my ass kicked, traveled to Brazil, saw kids 5 years younger than me who were better than me, like 13-year-olds. I was like, oh, I guess they were 14, I was 16. But that was humbling. And then it's like you go to Spain and you see these kids who are coming out of the academies in England, and I'm training and I'm competing against these guys, and I'm like, these guys are better than me, man. Like, they're just better. I'm not it. And then in tech, same thing. Your product blows up on Product Hunt and you get a few investors blowing you up and you think you're hot shit. And then you get further along, you start hanging out with CTO of this company, VP of product of that company, and you start realizing like, oh, wait a second, like, I'm not. It's a realization as a young man, like, hey, dude, like, let's get real. Like, you can do this and be okay, but you're never going to be the best. You're never going to be that guy over there. When I do something, I do it all the way. Yeah. So I learned those lessons quickly and I moved on, and I've come back to something which I am well suited to do, which is something on the intersection of fitness, community building, technology, which I have expertise in. And that's really, if you want to think about Dominate, it's on the intersection of those things, which I'm well suited to excel in. Right? Yeah. So it's a better expression of my talents and my gifts and my passions. Yeah. Than everything else I did.
But you got there because you did all those other things.
Totally.
Like
100%. No regrets, mate. Yeah. Yeah. You have to go through those lessons to learn.
And I almost think that should be the case for many entrepreneurs, is do try as much as you can wholeheartedly and see what
Dude, 100%. I'm someone who's tried so many things, mate. Like, you would die laughing at some of the shit I tried. None of it was a waste of time. None of it was, look, it was a wasted time in the sense that we didn't achieve the goal, but it's all part of developing who you are and developing, your purpose. And mate, there's no harm in trying something. What's the worst that can happen? You fail forward and you learn and you grow from that, and you gain the experience and the insight and the self-awareness and all these things that are going to serve you later on. Even in triathlon, like, triathlon was the most formative experience of my life. Those 4 years were truly the most formative 4 years of my entire life.
It proved you could do hard things. Absolutely.
I mean, it's more than that. It's not just hard things. Like, I got to hang out with some of the hardest working men in the world, truly in the world, like Olympic gold medalists, 4-time world champions.
Oh my gosh.
Be with them all day, shadow them, 2 hours in the pool, 4 hours on the bike, hour and a half at the run, at night, hang out with them at dinner, see what they eat, get inside their minds, understand. It's a level of commitment most people could never understand. Endurance sports is on a whole different level to regular sport. You've got regular sports where it's like the ball player, the basketball, the football player, and these guys get all the glory, they get all the money, they get all the everything. But the reality is they just don't work as hard because they don't have to. Yeah. There's a forcing function in endurance sport where you have to be committed 24/7, 365 for 10 years. Yeah. And that's like, forget about winning anything. That's just to be in the picture. Like, these are the guys who don't make it, right? Yeah. So anyway, we're jumping around a lot, but endurance sport, it develops your character. Yeah. It makes you humble. It makes you hardworking. Yeah. It teaches you about inputs and outputs, teaches you about consistency, teaches you about sacrifice, teaches you so many of the human lessons of life, right? That's why you see, by the way, if you go to like local triathlons and all the kids who are excelling, and then the junior elite programs in the United, they all go on to be wildly successful. Right. Because they develop characteristics and traits and habits and things that serve them in all areas. I highly recommend people get into endurance sport, or get your kids into it.
I'm going to pin a question for later.
Yeah, cool.
In regards to endurance sports, because I do want to circle back if we got time for it. The next thing I do want to talk to you about, though, is a Fashion Tap. One of your next endeavors. Tell me in the timeline which is true, because we can hit either one first. Yeah. Your Fashion Tap, or there was a stint where you fell into partying in some depression, and you did hit the homelessness. I think that was all in the same time frame.
Yeah, I can give you a timeline. So Timebomb was first, and we rebranded it to Timogram, because the National Australia Bank, they basically told us, we love your product, we want to use it, but we can't use anything with the word bomb in it. So we rebranded the whole product for one client. And then there was a technical error and we didn't even win the contract. It's a long story. But Timogram was first. That was really just dipping our toes. Didn't have a clue what we were doing. Didn't raise any money. Like, it was all... We ended up spending a ton of our own money. And then we went our separate ways. And the next thing I did was I was bouncing around, basically going to all the startup meetups and going to all the founder this and founder that, and VC hosted dinners. I was Mr. Startup, dude. I was doing everything I could. I was just hell-bent. I was like, I got to do something. Like, I need equity in a company, and I'm going to be a multimillionaire. I'm going to save my parents. I'm going to buy a house. It's all going to be gravy in 5 years. Let's go.
Make it happen.
I literally did that. So I became very closely connected with a bunch of people in tech, was connected with a guy who actually is, to this day, one of my best friends, easily top 3 most impactful people in my life. He was a very successful technologist, entrepreneur. Anyway, we took a liking to each other, and he sort of took me under his wing, and he offered me a place at one of his startups. He was a chairman. He'd funded it. He had a really exciting product called Fashion Tap. There was a team led by an up and coming fashion blogger. She was a really, really talented fashion blogger, and she was excited about technology. So it was like shoppable Instagram, basically. It was a photo sharing app, right? But then bloggers and brands could post images, tag the physical fashion products in the photos, and then followers could come in and tap images and purchase them in the app, right? And then there was a revenue share on the back end with the guy or gal who posted it and the brand and our platform. So I came in as the COO, and I basically helped take it from being like a really ragtag kind of like super early stage thing to kind of get things in place and get organized and build the team out in marketing and stuff. And it was my first real experience as like a leader at like a, you know, like a technology company.
Yeah, which is a big deal. It's like
it was really exciting, man. And we went on Shark Tank. We had a ton of growth.
That was
like,
the question I wanted to ask you about.
A lot of traffic. Like, dude, it was exciting.
Tell me about Shark Tank. That's the thing that stood out to me, because you didn't take the deal. You said no deal to their Shark Tank.
So I wasn't on the show. I was anxiously awaiting the phone call. Amy, our CEO at the time, she was on the show. And long story short, we had prepped Amy like 6 ways to Saturday about like what we would and wouldn't take, and like, you know,
which
she
is
was
so
clear.
smart.
And she's super confident. She crushed it, and she went in there and she basically got an offer from, I think it was one or two of them, and she turned it down. She said, no, we're not taking it.
Yeah.
And the risk there is if you go into Shark Tank and you don't, you get an offer and you don't take it, you risk not making it to air, because only if you take a deal, then you make it to air. But if you don't take a deal, there's a good chance they just cut it and you never make it. The obvious opportunity there is the marketing value of being on, you know, broadcasted internationally. So we made it. The app blew up. Everything was really exciting. To make a long story short, ran out of money, and we weren't able to raise that next round of financing. And the model was you needed money, you needed millions of users, you needed millions of active users. There was a spike in growth, and then it started slowly to dwindle of death. Yeah, and it was like, man, it was a very formative experience. Again, a wonderful experience for me personally to grow into, you know, my business acumen and that side of my skills, and just learn and develop. And another failure, but it was a fail forward. Another fail forward.
Did that spur this next step of you being like, because there's two phases of you moving into a car, where one is a choice and one is almost a necessity. I feel like maybe it might be a better word.
It was both. So I was living, my family had this old beat up SUV. It was a Cadillac Escalade from like, you know, suburban like life 10 years earlier. I can't remember what they were driving, but I somehow ended up with that. Yeah. And that was my car.
That's a big boy. That's a big
car.
Yeah, that's
big
a big
V8,
car.
Had like 250,000 miles on it or something crazy. It was insane, dude. Everything was broken. Like the seats were trash. It was a mess. And I had that, and I lived in it, and I was like, I didn't have any money, right? Because I was basically bussing tables, like waiting, bartending, like doing that whole thing to make, you know, my credit card minimums, and like it was that bad, and I was just sleeping in this car.
Sold your bikes that you cared a lot about.
Yeah, absolutely. That was how I moved in. That's what actually you just reminded me. So I moved in I was living in my car, and then I synced up with two of my best friends from high school, and I lived with them for like a year, and that was so fun. One of them, he had a house, and he had a beautiful house, and he was able to let me and my other buddy live there for like a super sweet deal. Like it was like we were underpaying. Like it was a beautiful situation. Yeah, it was my boy. He was like taking care of us. Shout out Dylan. And he was and it was great. And we had a lot of fun, dude. We were doing like 23, 24 or whatever. Like we were just doing what 23-year-olds do. Like they were rock stars. They were like building their music businesses and like hanging out, making a ton of music. And I was working on Fashion Tap for some portion of that time. That was when Fashion Tap sort of wound down and ended. That's when I had all those bikes left over from my triathlon years. I sold everything, bro. I sold my old couch that was in my bedroom. I sold my TV. I sold all my bikes. I sold all my equipment. I had so much equipment that sponsors just give you gear. So I had all this stuff, and I sold it all. And it was like just one thing after another. I must have made, I don't know, 20 grand ish, maybe more, 25 grand.
Yeah, nice.
And that kept me going for a while. And then once that ran out, it was like, shit, like now what? And I think I'm trying to remember the exact timeline. I had a gig as a lifeguard. I would work at LA County lifeguard. So I work on the beach. These are all these cash jobs, right? You've got like your career, and then you've got the cash jobs that you do along the way. Yeah. And so for me, it was restaurants, lifeguarding, and it's some personal training. I was doing a little bit here and there while I figure out like what's my big
your big move
to take over the world. Yeah. I did a bit of this and that. And then I moved out of that house, and I decided to move. Trying to remember the exact timing. I think I went back to my sister's place in Hollywood for a little bit. And then after that, I went back out into the van life. And that was when I started my personal training brand. Yeah. Man. So I was kind of bouncing around for a few years. It was like 5 years. I was bouncing all over the place. But I was with my friends for a year. I was with my sister at her apartment in North Hollywood for a year. And then when I decided to come down to the West Side and do personal training and go all in on fitness. Yeah. Oh, I went back to Australia. That's what it was. Sorry, I forget the timeline. So yeah, that's what I did. So I did, anyway, you get the point. I was bouncing around. Right? I was in my car and then I was with my buddies and then I was in North Hollywood. Then I was back in Australia. Then I came back to America after I was in Australia.
Yeah.
I did a stint out there running sales for a CPG brand.
Right. Yeah.
Super formative experience. Again, really, really awesome. Gained a ton of confidence. Was like, I can sell anything. Like, this is great.
Super valuable skill for any...
Super valuable. I was doing door-to-door sales, bro. I would have gone and seen 50 cafes a day. I was going door-to-door, cafe, walk in, schmooze with the owner, boom, boom, give them the milk, get them wrapped up, bang, straight into the distributor, like bang. I was selling so much milk. I was like, this is great. Like I can sell anything. I was having fun.
Wow.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
I was literally a milkman. And that was like 25, 26-ish. And then I came back to America. And when I came back, I was like, I'm done with these stepping stones. I'm done failing forwards. I'm done with all this. Like, I want to just, what am I here on this planet to build? Like, what's my thing? I'm done learning. I don't need to learn another lesson. Like, I need to start making some money. Like, you know,
I've learned all the lessons I need.
I was like, dude, I'm ready. Like, come on. And so I was like, what do you want to do? And so I always go back to fitness. I really do love, like, you give me $1 billion, Nick, and you're like, you just enjoy your life. I would probably wake up every day. I would swim, I would bike, and I would run, and I would lift heavy weights. That's what I would do. I love fitness. I love lifting heavy weights. I love gyms. I love competing. I love swimming. I love
community of people you're around, people that want to better themselves.
I love stopping at the coffee shop, having a chat. I love all that. And so it's something I love. And so I was looking for a way to align with the things that I loved. And it was a really smart thing of me to do at that point in my life because I needed something positive to look to because it was hard. But by the way, my parents have been going through a really tough time this entire period. Yeah. So it's like I was constantly getting down on myself about the fact that I was like, 3, 4, 5, 6 years into that whole ordeal and I still hadn't done anything to contribute. And so there was a lot of like, getting down on myself and just being like, dude, like, what are you doing? Yeah. And I started training friends and then friends of friends. And I got another gig at a restaurant. I ended up working at the Four Seasons as a server. Yeah. While I was slowly starting to ramp up the personal training business, I again moved back in with a mate of mine
in the parking lot. Right. This is when you're starting to do the parking lot and the parks.
This is this is before that. So I started doing personal training, and personal training is great because it's super high margin. Yeah. Right. And I was an expert. Like I was truly a world-class athlete at one point in my life. So I could train people for sure. Yeah. I realized, wow, I'm actually way more of an expert than I ever gave myself credit for. Like I can write nutrition plans in my sleep. I understand the human anatomy. I understand training principles. I understand how to optimize for just about any physical goal. Yeah. I started doing personal training and I realized really quickly, like, holy shit, I'm not just good at this. Like I'm the best at this. Yeah. And you got to be a people person too. It's a service, but you got to be able to connect face to face. You got to be able to connect. Some days you're more of a therapist than a trainer. Mm-hmm. And I loved it. I get a lot of gratification from helping people, and you see people grow in confidence. You see them transform their bodies. It was just this amazing thing. Once my personal training company, it was called You're Dominating, started making money. I felt so dumb because I was like, why did it take you 10 years? You could have done this at 18. You could have done this 5 years, 3, 4 years before your parents ever lost their home. You were an expert in physical fitness at 17. Mate, I was 13, 14. I would go to the gym for 4 hours. Like I was obsessed. Yeah. So I was already an expert way before all this other nonsense. Yeah. And I just wish I got started earlier because I could have an empire by now. But you've got to go through that journey. That's life. So the personal training starts working, start making some money, start paying off all my credit cards, start, being able to contribute, like all the things that I've been working towards. And then I was able to get more ambitious and think big picture and take a step back and think, okay, great. I've got my, whatever. I'm doing 5, 6, 7 sessions a day, 150 a pop. Like I'm pulling cash. Yeah. Like, it was all good.
Cash.
Yeah. It was like the first time in my life. I was like, it's finally. But I really quickly realized like, that's not scalable. Like what are you going to do? You're going to do personal training all day, every day. Like don't get me wrong. Again, there's people who do that and that's love and respect to those people. But for me, like I wanted to do something where I could leverage technology, or I could build something scalable. I could impact more people. I could, help more people and achieve my long-term financial goals. So for me, that meant expanding beyond the personal training service itself. So I started doing, first it was meal prep, partnered with a local restaurant owner. Yeah. They started cooking meals for my clients. Clients started getting results really quickly, started selling meals to my buddies' clients. And
you were delivering at the very beginning.
I was doing everything.
You're dominating meals.
When I say, mate, it was like, and again, this is where triathlon comes in. Like there's almost no level of, when people say, oh, I'm working so hard, like there's almost no level of hard work that can compare to being a professional triathlete. Like there's just nothing. It's actual hard work, right? Yeah. Like even let's say you work a 10-hour day and you're doing cold calls all day. Like which one of those phone calls actually hurt you? Like which one? Was it the 100th one, the 101? Which one actually physically brought you pain? Yeah. Because professional triathletes are out there bleeding in the mouth every day. Like they're truly putting themselves through physical anguish. Yeah. Like every day. Yeah. nonstop. Like that's hard work, right? So it's like your calibration for what's hard work gets completely changed when you're a high level endurance athlete, right?
Yeah,
and this could go for a college runner, right? College swimmer. They all understand what I'm talking about. Like it's voluntary suffering, right? For many, many hours back to back to back. So all of a sudden working a 12-hour work day or delivering a few hundred meals or whatever, mate, piece of cake. I'm like, bring it. Let's go. You know, when everyone else like says it's hard, I'm like, oh, really?
That's the thing that's standing in my way. I'll do it.
Yeah. There's nothing I wouldn't do. So I was so hell-bent. Personal training took off. We started doing the meal prep service. I was doing Wednesdays and Sundays. I would drive to the kitchen, collect all the meals. I would deliver them all personally. I'd hand them over to the customer. And then obviously you get home, you do the admin, the payroll, like not payroll, the finances and like, you know, the marketing and polling people. Did you like it? Did you not like it? Okay, new meals. And it was fun. And it was growing, right? Week over week. It was a significant growth. And I was doing everything myself with my partner cooking the meals. So that was great. And then again, same realization. It was like, okay, this is going really well, but like it's time to scale up. Let's just like, what's the big idea? Like, what are we going to do?
Always looking at the vision.
Always, mate. I was like, this is good. This will get me to 10 million. But like, what about, you know, we need more zeros. We need more commas. Like, so I started thinking about group fitness. I saw an opportunity to build something in group fitness. And selfishly, I thought that sounded like a lot of fun. I do truly love community. I love people.
Yeah.
I love strangers.
Yeah.
I love sitting here and having a chat with a stranger. And it's very one way you're asking me, but I love learning about other people. So I love, you know, when the mic turns off, I'd love to learn more about your story. Seriously, I just love, you know, I'm interested. So I'm the right kind of person to build a community, right? So I have the fitness skills, I have the business acumen, I understand where technology is going and how it might impact this industry.
And that leadership foundation that you had, being the co-founder of all those things too, that plays into this?
Totally. Yeah, totally. So I started doing workouts in the park. And the whole idea was we were going to build an outdoor boutique fitness operation. So boutique fitness is like, you know, you go to like a Barry's Bootcamp, Orange Theory, F45. They have basically these studios. They're very compact and you're turning over 30, 40 people every hour on the hour all day. It's highly lucrative. Yeah. And they've seen a massive boom in that industry in the last 10 years. And so I saw an opportunity to do that, but it's quite tired. Like everything that you can think of has been done. So I saw an opportunity to differentiate by doing it outdoors. Yeah. And I thought, hey, if we can build these outdoor boutique fitness studios. They're pop-up studios, but we call them studios. We could do them in every beach park and open space in America. Like we could pop them up for 1/10 of the cost, grow them to profitability in like a couple of months, raise more capital, move on. We could build an app, tie them all together. Like, and so I was like, we're going to take over. This is going to be the fastest growing fitness thing in the world. I was like, dominate. F45 got to $1 billion in like whatever it was, 7 years. I was like, we're going to do it in 3. Let's go. Right. So that was my pitch. And so we went out and raised a little bit of money. We started popping these things off all over LA. We did one in Santa Monica. We did one in Beverly Hills. We did one in Culver City. We did one in Pasadena. We did one in Thousand Oaks. Like, we were like, let's go. And I had this big vision. I thought it was for sure going to work. Like I was 100% sure. Yeah. And again, like, it didn't work. So that didn't work because they kept getting shut down. So all of these different
permitting reasons?
Yeah, permitting. The regulatory framework is such that it's very difficult to prop up any sort of commercial activity in public space. Yeah. Different parks have different rules and regulations for what you can and cannot do. I'm very fortunate here on the west side of Los Angeles. We have a beautiful relationship with the city of Santa Monica. Nice. And they have a special permitting program they've carved out. It's not just for us, it's for anyone can do it. And so it works here, but it doesn't work at all the other cities.
And you have to build that relationship over and over and over and over.
That's not scalable. We were selling classes out, bro, after like 1 month in Pasadena. That's the other side of LA. Yeah. So for me, I'm like, we're onto something here. Like, this is going to go. And I'm like selling classes out on a Saturday in Pasadena. I'm driving back to Santa Monica. I'm like, we got to, we got to get it out. We got to get down to San Diego. Like we thought, boys are all fired up. Yeah. We wasted so much time and energy because unfortunately it just wasn't to be. It wasn't meant to be. The cities weren't going to allow it to happen. One after another, they all started kicking us out. But okay, without their cooperation, like it's just going to be so hard to scale. And like, I don't want to go back and forth with these bureaucrats for the rest of my life. It's truly painful. Maybe more painful than triathlon.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's the one thing that'll I spend so much time going into like this city hall and that city hall and meeting with people and these decision makers who are holding your business in their hand and like they have no incentive to help you and they don't care. Yeah. So I was just like, okay, like this, it was a good idea, but didn't work. Yeah. By the way, it happens every day. Like so many talented entrepreneurs have millions of ideas and it just doesn't work because look, a lot of the things you can control and a lot of things you can't. And it doesn't make you a bad entrepreneur. It doesn't make it a bad idea. It just means move on, find another avenue. So that's what we did. So we went back to the drawing board. We said, okay, we have to go indoors. We have to, oh no, we didn't actually. First we said, we can't do public space. We have to do private space. Yeah. So let's lease parking lots. Yeah. Let's lease parking lots. Let's lay down astroturf turf. Let's put around a beautiful white picket fence. Let's make it totally aesthetic. Let's do string lights. Let's make it great DJ booth, like total vibe. And we'll do outdoor gyms in parking lots. But when people show up, they won't even know that it used to be a parking lot. They're going to walk into the most spectacular
Loved it.
bougie park they've ever seen in their life.
Yeah.
So we start trying to prop these things up, and then same thing again. The city wouldn't let it happen. We couldn't get the permits. There were noise complaints.
Even if you're leasing the parking lots?
Yes.
It was only for cars.
Yes. It's so complicated. I won't bore you with the details because this is the part that frustrates me is I tell people it didn't work and people are like, why not?
There's probably
It's like,
a lot
no,
of reasons.
trust me. I spent 2 years of my life. No one would have been as
Fired up.
resilient or as persistent as I was. It was ridiculous. The amount of people I called, meetings I took, things I did. We engaged this lawyer, that lawyer, land use attorneys, architectural firms. We spent tens of thousands of dollars. It's hard to even imagine.
Yeah.
It's like we spent so much money and we just probably more than that actually when I do the math. We couldn't find a way to make it happen. So we said, okay, second idea, not working. Parks didn't work. Parking lots didn't work. Let's go indoors. Let's just sling indoors. Honestly, mate, I'm so happy that those things didn't work because if they started working, I would have had to go and do that. Like I would have had to follow through. That's a 10-year to try and build $1 billion. And I love the product that we have here at Dominate. I love where this company is right now. I love the service we're offering. I love the community. I love where we landed as a brand in terms of here's who we are and what we do.
You would have missed it.
I would have missed the true gift. This is like, have you ever seen what's the book everyone loves? The Alchemist?
I have, yeah. Read that one.
Mate, that book, I swear on my life, it's like someone wrote it about me.
Yeah.
It's truly like that. We went out and we did all of these things. We went to Florida. We were looking at places. We said, we're done with California. We're going to Florida. Mate, I tried so many things. And the whole thing was this beautiful property, 8,500 square feet of perfection was on my doorstep. I live across the street.
Yeah.
And it was right here the whole time. And I was looking at, I must have toured 200 parking lots, properties, this, that. I was considering all kinds of wild. I don't know what to take from that. Basically, it's like, look, it was the path to success is like this. It's a mess. And there were times where, team members started leaving, people lost faith in me, investors bailed. Like, it was,
that's tough.
It was hard. Oh, it was hard. There's one hard thing after another. 2 steps forward, 1 step back. 1 step forward, 3 steps back. 5 steps forward, 3 steps back. It's just a nightmare, but that's what you're signing up for if you want to go and build something. And especially if you're trying to innovate, right? If you just want to carve out, like, do something that works, great. Yeah. Or you want to innovate, it's going to be really hard. And we tried to innovate again and again and again. Even to this day, we're doing so many innovative things here. Yeah. And it's hard. We're building our own tech platform and we're trying new business models and we're launching new classes and ideas and we're trying to price things really consumer friendly. And all these different innovations are really difficult, right? It's like even educating people on why this is good. And like, there's so many challenges. So you just want to do a business. We're doing it on hard mode. It sometimes feels like I've done my whole life on hard mode. Like could have just gotten good grades, like gone to a great school, like would have done fine in finance, would have done fine in tech. But like, no, I had to drop out and go try to be an athlete. And then that didn't work. So what do? I doubled down and picked the hardest sport I can think of. Like that was dumb. And then like, didn't know anything about tech. I tried to build a tech company. Like I really have played life on hard mode, but I'm grateful that I did because it was very humbling, when you fail, it's the most humbling thing in the world. And it gives you that self-awareness and, gets you clear on who you are. And I'm very grateful for all of it to have led me to a place where I get to do what I'm passionate about. And more than that, we're helping so many people. Like we're really a great force for good in the world. We're doing a lot of good work and it's very gratifying. So, billion or no billion, like we're doing an incredible thing. And it's something that I'm really proud of. And I'm very, very grateful.
Moving into the final question of the podcast.
Yeah. Sorry, we bounce around a lot.
I loved it. I loved every bit of it. Cool. So something that you mentioned is you're playing life on hard mode. But what I would say is, I think that's what leads to like a full life. Like so many people don't have any scars by the time they pass, metaphorically speaking. But you have the experience and you've gone all in.
It's so funny you say that. There's so many people all around us every day, but really in life, you just want the respect of your peers, right? Like it's like whose opinions do you really care about? When you're a pro triathlete, like you don't care that everyone thinks you're crazy. You just want the other guys on the starting line to really respect you and know you're a badass, right? And I'm sure it's like that in every domain. I'm in a period of my life where, I'm at the start of my entrepreneurial journey. I'm a very early stage startup founder, but there's a level of respect that you have for other people who are trying to do cool shit and trying to build 100%. Shit and trying to make a difference and trying to do it differently and trying to impact the world. And I can't imagine a life where I'm not doing that, right? Yeah. And I feel so bad. Not bad. Look, it's not about, I'm better than anyone. No one's better than anyone. And you're not a better person for gravitating towards this pursuit. Yeah. That's not what I'm trying to say here. But like, I've got many friends who are more sort of like the traditional route. Man, I just feel sorry for them. Like, I can't imagine. It sounds like it's such a boring life and not gratifying life. Like, there's so much uncertainty that I'm faced with every day, and I love it. Yeah, and like the adventure, the triumphs, the failures, the ups, the downs, the twists, the turns. you know, and a lot of these guys are making good money, you know, like going to finance makes money. And I love them all as people. It's not that, but it's just like, man, I could never imagine a life any different to the one I've got. You respect others who have been through the challenges. I see and hear people in the way they talk about successful entrepreneurs. And I'm just like, dude, you've got no idea what that person had to go through to get to where they are, and the incredible value that they're offering, not only to shareholders and how many millionaires they've made. Yeah. Right. And then you have the audacity to sit here and pontificate like, you know, like, mate, what are you
talking? The tough decisions.
Yeah. And like people don't, you know, without building anything, if you've never built anything, like just, it seems to me like you're not in a position to be criticizing or casting stones towards people who are trying their best to build stuff. And there's a lot of that in today's society. And I've even had people talk down on me. Like, really? Yeah, like, you know, people who work in finance or whatever, you know, no, just like,
look at
like,
my stability, my stability versus
exactly.
Maybe.
You know, it's like, mate, everyone chooses their path and it's all good, you know, but like one thing I will say is that if you choose the path of trying to become an entrepreneur, you're going to have a better understanding of pain, of triumph, of, you know, all those things versus, you know, the other version of yourself maybe who never made that decision to take that leap. And I think those are things worth exploring and learning. Like I really think it's doing anything hard. I mean, you can put building a company in that category, but just doing hard things. Yeah. Playing life on hard mode. Like play life on hard mode. Highly encourage it. I think it's the only way to live. You know, like who wants an easy life? That's awful. Yeah. Right? Like, boring. Terrible.
Unfulfilled.
Yeah.
Final question of the podcast, Eddie. Yeah. What does it mean to live a fulfilling life?
A fulfilling life. Okay. That's a big question. I think it's on the intersection of what you enjoy, right? Like, let's get back to basics. Like, do stuff you enjoy. Like, enjoy this experience, right? It's 100 years and then it's over. Bang. Who knows what's next? But like, enjoy it. Life's got so many beautiful experiences, feelings, sensations, places, things to do, sounds, sights, to see. Exactly. Yeah. So enjoy it. Enjoy the ride. But at the same time, I think if you're just optimizing for enjoyment, you're missing the other vector, like the other important thing. It has to be on the intersection of enjoyment and providing value or serving others. And serving others is it's a general term, but serving others can be serving the world, serving the natural world, serving the universe in some way, adding to the collective knowledge base, adding to, you know, whether it's science and tech and contributing something which makes, you know, the next generation's life a little easier or more enjoyable, or if it's literally serving people like a life of service in a religious sense or as a philosopher. There's so many ways to serve humanity. I do think that something on the intersection of those two is a life of purpose. Yes, you should take something out of this. It shouldn't just be like, you know, I think that's important. I think it's a shame not to enjoy life. But I think in addition to enjoying yourself, you know, help others, because there's a lot of suffering and it's gratifying. There's something about the human, we're in this together, you know, and there's obviously like, there's selfish motives for starting a company, but there's also, I'm telling you right now, it's right down the middle, like equal gratification. And in many cases, much more from the help that the people I put smiles on people's faces every day. I get, you know, these messages from people in the community saying we've changed their life, or we've led to them. People become best friends because they
even just walking in here, people are high-fiving you, some big smiles on them.
Mate, it's amazing. Want to be here. I'm so grateful for that. And it's truly adding value to other people's lives and lifting them up and making them healthier and helping them thrive and be the best version of themselves. And it sounds cheesy, but it's not cheesy at all, man. I'll tell you right now, how many people go through life and they're miserable and they don't feel like anyone loves them or needs them, and they don't feel like they have any purpose. What a shame. Like, you know, like that's so sad. And I think I'm very grateful to have found a way to build a career while also helping so many people, because I'm hitting both. And I'm very grateful for that. You know, like I understand a lot of people would aspire to have that. So I'm very grateful to have found what feels like a purpose and a calling for me. And I know a lot of people are looking for that. And even though I took so many years and so many misadventures to find it, it felt to me like it took forever. Yeah. But now realizing I'm only 31 and I already have a purpose, and I know exactly what I'm going to do for the next 80 years until I die. This is it. Like this is what I'm here to do. It's not a pump and dump. It's not for sale. Like I'm here because this is the ultimate expression of my ability and my purpose. And like, that's really rare. How many entrepreneurs can really say that? Like even really successful ones who are way more successful than me, they can't say that. They're just like, no, dude, like I'm here for them. Yeah. Like, you know, the ROI, like I'm really not like all that other stuff. I don't want it as much as I want to help as many people as possible. And I know if I do that, we'll be successful financially, you know? Absolutely. So I'm very grateful because I know a lot of people want that and they're looking for that. So I would encourage people to start with what are they passionate about and ask themselves truly who they are. What is their true nature? Like look back at childhood. There are clues. Like look back at your even college. Like when you have free time, how do you spend it? Right? When your mind wanders, where does it wander?
Yeah.
Right? Like figure out who you are, because a lot of the time people have an idea of who they want to be,
right,
but they're not actually looking at who they truly are. And for me, it was so obvious from a young age that I was obsessed with fitness. Like fitness and health and fitness was just all I wanted to do. And when I started doing that as a career, everything clicked, and it was like, dude, that was obvious. Why didn't you just do that? And so people should just be honest with themselves about what they're passionate about and what they've been drawn to their whole life, and give themselves an opportunity to explore that.
Eddie, how can we support you? Where do you want to send people? Where do you want them to go?
Dude, you're supporting me, I think, just by offering to share the story. I hope I was at least some way
you're awesome.
Helpful.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's great.
So we're jumping around a lot. Dude, it's been a long day. I'll be honest with you. We have a coffee and do it again. I'll be a lot more clear in my thoughts. Yeah. Right after the Magic Mind, you get me.
Yeah, right.
Dude, anyone ever finds themselves in West LA and they'd like to come check out the most beautiful gym in the world.
That's right.
We're right here on Main Street in Santa Monica.
Yeah.
Love to have you. Come check it out. Do a workout. We're going to be building out the world's most beautiful wellness center with infrared sauna, cold plunge, showers. It's a beautiful way to spend the hour, whether it's a fitness class, a workout in the gym, or just some wellness. And we have delicious meals as well if you want a healthy meal. So
full package, baby.
Full package, baby. Yeah. Come check it out. Follow us online.
DMN8. Love it. All of Eddie's links are going to be in the show notes. So go hit up the show notes. Say hello. Eddie, thanks for being on the show. That was the episode. You just listened to it. Eddie Roche. His story reminds us that resilience and a willingness to take calculated risks can turn even the most daunting failures into stepping stones for success. If you found Eddie's journey as enlightening as we did here at the Nickolas and Natali Show, make sure to follow him on social media. Give him some love. And don't forget to leave a 5-star review on the Nickolas and Natali Show, any podcast platform you're listening to. Hit subscribe. Get some more of this. Get some more episodes coming your way. But the real reason you're still here is you want to know the answer to the riddle of the week. What did the duck say when it bought chapstick? Put it on my bill. Right in the kisser. That's where he wants that chapstick, but also his tab. This is a duck with some integrity. He's going to pay that. All right. I'll see you next Friday at 6 a.m. Until then, stay gritty. Bye.